The Sound of Silence at Diccan Pot. We're starting our 2025 journey in North Yorkshire, England, at a place called Diccan Pot. It's part of the massive Long Churn and Alum Pot cave system, a popular spot for cavers. On January 19th, a Sunday afternoon, a group of cavers were making their way through the system. One of them started to descend the first pitch, a 100-foot drop into the darkness. Suddenly, the group at the top heard a loud bang. They called out to their friend, but there was no response. They pulled on the rope, and it went taut. They were at a traverse, a horizontal section of the cave, meaning they couldn't see down the pitch. All they knew was that their friend was on the end of that rope, and something had gone terribly wrong. They feared he was suspended, injured, or worse. They immediately called for help. The Cave Rescue Organization, the same team that lost Dave Anderson years ago, was on the scene. The first rescuers to reach the bottom of the pitch found the caver lying motionless. They couldn't find any sign of life. After the police recorded the scene, the team carefully placed the man on a stretcher and began the long, grim task of hauling him out of the cave. At the surface, paramedics confirmed what the rescuers already knew. He was gone. We don't know the caver's name, but we know he died from a catastrophic fall. What was the bang? Did his equipment fail? Did he slip? We'll probably never know for sure. All we know is that 1 minute he was on a routine descent, and the next, he was gone. Trouble in paradise at Twin Caves. Let's head to Florida, to a place that sounds like it was designed for a postcard. Merritt Mill Pond in Mariana is home to Twin Caves, a stunning underwater cave system with 2 openings that swallow you into a labyrinth of submerged passages. The water is clear, the diving is world-class, and on March 18, 2025, 3 divers decided it was the perfect day for an exploration. Here's the thing about cave diving. You go in as a team, and you come out as a team. That's the rule. These 3 divers knew that. They geared up, checked their equipment, and descended into the crystal clear water. The first opening is about 60 feet, 18 meters deep. The second one, shallower. They would have been following a guideline, moving through the narrow passages, their lights cutting through the darkness. Everything was going according to plan until it wasn't. Maybe the visibility dropped. Maybe someone's light failed. Maybe they hit a restriction, a tight squeeze that one of them couldn't make. In cave diving, panic is contagious. One person gets stuck, the others try to help, and suddenly you've got 3 people in trouble instead of 1. 2 of them managed to fight their way back to the surface. They came up gasping, probably in shock, and immediately called for help. At 1:15 in the afternoon, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office got the call that every cave diver dreads. Divers overdue. A massive rescue operation launched. Fire and Rescue, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the Sheriff's Office, all descended on the pond. They went back in, searching the dark passages for the 3rd diver. They found him, but it was too late. He was lying motionless somewhere deep in the flooded tunnels of Twin Caves. The authorities won't say what went wrong. Equipment failure? Navigation error? A medical emergency? We'll probably never know. But here's what we do know. 3 people went into that beautiful, inviting water, and only 2 came back. And those 2 survivors have to live with the fact that they made it out, and their friend didn't. That's a weight you carry for the rest of your life. The King of the Deep's last dive. For our 3rd story, we're heading to the rugged mountains of eastern Sardinia, to a place where crystal clear water bursts from the base of the Supramonte Massif. Su Gologone Springs is one of the most important freshwater springs in Italy, a gaping mouth in the rock that drops down at least 443 feet into a labyrinth of submerged passages. The water is cold, the visibility is incredible, and the cave system is a siren call for the world's best divers. On October 10, 2025, one of those divers was Luca Pedrali. At 60 years old, Luca was a living legend. They called him Re degli Abissi, the King of the Deep. He held the Italian depth record with a dive to 866 feet in Lake Garda. He had pushed deeper and further into caves than almost anyone else in the country. If anyone could handle Su Gologone, it was Luca. On that day, Luca was part of a major expedition to try and find a connection between Su Gologone and another nearby cave. He descended into the cold, clear water, his lights illuminating the rocky walls as he moved deeper into the system. But somewhere down there, something went wrong. He started to feel unwell. Maybe it was his heart, maybe his lungs, maybe something else entirely. He made the call to surface. He broke the surface and his support team was right there. But within seconds, Luca collapsed. He became unresponsive. His team immediately started CPR, screaming for help. The emergency services arrived and took over, but it was no use. The king of the deep was dead, right there at the edge of the water, in the one place he felt most alive. It appears Luca suffered a medical emergency, a tragic and unpredictable event. It's a chilling echo of a similar incident at the same spot in 2010, when another diver died in almost the exact same way. Rest in peace. The maze at the bottom of the world. Our next stop is on the other side of the world in a remote corner of South Australia. Near the small town of Tantanoola, about 22 miles from Mount Gambier, lies Tank Cave. It's a popular dive spot, but it's also a killer. The underwater cave system is a maze of tunnels, rock formations, and tight passages that have claimed multiple lives over the years. On November 30th, 2025, it was about to claim another. Gary Gibson was 65 years old, a highly experienced cave diver from Victoria. His friends described him as careful, methodical, and funny. He had years of experience, and he knew what he was doing. On that Sunday, he and two other men geared up and descended into the cold, dark water of Tank Cave. The dive started normally. 3 divers moving through the submerged passages, their lights cutting through the murky water. And like every seasoned cave diver, they were probably thinking the same universal thought. Please let today be a finding cool rocks day and not a why is this tunnel suddenly shrinking day. But somewhere deep in the cave, Gary encountered a problem. He became trapped by rocks. Maybe he was squeezing through a narrow passage and dislodged something. Maybe he was exploring a side tunnel and a shift in the cave pinned him down. Whatever happened, he couldn't free himself. And in an underwater cave, if you can't move, you drown. His 2 companions realized he was missing. They searched, their lights sweeping through the dark passages, but they couldn't find him. Panic set in. They surfaced and immediately called for help. A massive recovery operation was launched. Police divers, cave diving experts, and one very special guest, Dr. Richard Harris, the Australian anesthetist who became a hero during the 2018 Thai cave rescue. If anyone could bring Gary home, it was Dr. Harris. On December 1st, they found him. Gary Gibson was lying in the underwater cave, trapped by rocks, about 164 feet away from where he had last been seen by his companions. How did he get there? Did he try to find another way out? Did he get disoriented? We'll never know. The recovery team carefully extracted his body and brought him back to the surface. An internal investigation is underway to figure out exactly what went wrong, but the answer is tragically simple. Even the most careful, experienced divers can be trapped by forces beyond their control. Midnight in the water caves. Okay, so for our final story of 2025, we're heading to the coast of Spain, to a place called Cueva del Agua, the water caves. This is one of Europe's only warm water cenotes, a beautiful and popular spot near Cartagena. But it's also a place with a dark history, having claimed 5 lives in the 35 years before 2025. On the night of January 18th, it claimed its 6th. Lorena Garcia Martin was 37 years old, an English teacher living in Spain. Her boyfriend, Ismail, was 41, and he was a diving instructor. On that Saturday night, the 2 of them decided to go for a dive in Cueva del Agua. Late at night. in a cave system that had already killed 5 people. What could possibly go wrong? They descended into the warm water, their lights cutting through the darkness. But according to Ismail, the visibility quickly became a nightmare. Sediment stirred up from the cave floor, turning the water into a murky soup. He claims he couldn't see anything. He panicked. And in his panic, he did the one thing you should never do in cave diving. He left his partner behind. He surfaced, gasping, alone. He says he went back in to search for her, but he couldn't find her. At 11:03 p.m., he called 112, Spain's emergency number. The call kept cutting out, but he managed to tell them that Lorena was still down there, carrying 2 air cylinders. A massive search operation was launched. The GEAS, the Special Group of Underwater Activities of the Civil Guard, along with firefighters and local police, worked through the night. In the early hours of Sunday morning, they found her. She was dead. But here's where the story gets darker. Ismail's story started to fall apart. First, he said they'd been diving for an hour. Then he changed it to half an hour. Investigators started asking questions. Did Lorena even have the certification for a dive this dangerous? And why would Ismail, an experienced diving instructor, take his girlfriend into one of Spain's deadliest caves at night? The authorities are now investigating him for reckless homicide.